line through here. My bust point is right there. We're going to slash and spread this dart down to the waist. All right, so you're going to draw your line in. I am working out full scale, so it's easier for you to see. If you're working on your half scale, half everything I'm about to say. So I like to move my in about 1 inch from that side seam. And we're going to slash and spread. You want to grab your French curve, and then you get to be a designer for a moment and decide what you want that yoke to look like. You can decide where you want the yoke to be. So if you wanted a Western shirt front, whatever you want your yoke, this is where the design comes into play. If you're working with a designer and you're draping something for them, or you're the designer, sometimes we can start with a nice basic bodice block and actually draw that line onto your garment with the person in it. I'm going to go down 3 inches and curve up ever so slightly into my arm side. This center front line wants to be nice and square. So you want to make sure this is a nice 90-degree angle here, and where it's coming off of your arm side. As soon as you decide where that design line wants to be, you're going to give yourself 2 notches. What's important about notches? Remember last week? You want to make sure those notches are going straight up and down. You want them to be nice and parallel to your grain line. This piece is done. Don't we love those words? Have to do with this is you can either use the same piece. You want to make sure you label it. Occasionally you'll have to true it up if you got messy. And all we need to do now is focus on our bottom half. Now you can grab your paper, that lovely center line. And I'm going to pin my bodice front right along that center front line so it lines up. I'm going to trace this all out so you can see what I'm going to true, but before anybody traces, normally when I'm transferring this pattern, I would actually just take my ruler and correct these lines, right? We end up with these little divots up. We saw that when we were transferring some of the other ones. So you're going to help this curve out. I'm going to trace this so you all can see it a little clearer. I'm actually going to do it in blue and then trace it, do my corrections in Sharpie. To go in, you're going to use your French curve. And we discovered when we were making our bodices the first time, we know that this wants to be a nice, clean 90-degree angle right there. And we know this far edge wants to be a nice, clean 90-degree angle. All we want to do, we never want this hard edge here, so we're going to true this up a little bit. So this tends to come out, but it's pretty common, the bottom of a bodice comes straight out and curve up to that outside line. This is going to dip down a little bit, especially on women. You're going to have a little bit more of a dip. And this is one of the, like the arm side, your waistline is going to be one of those big places for an adjustment. This nice clean line, it's going to be a little more true to form if you come out this way and actually drop this front line down about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch. I'm going to give it 1/4 inch. So I'm going to curve up. The center front line is going to, again, a nice right angle here. And we know this back coming off the arm side. This is the point where we're going to just square off that corner. We're going to truss this top line a little more than our arm side, give it a nice square. And then you're just going to take your French curve, lay it in, and give yourself that curve across.
Why is the curve across the top concave as opposed to convex?
This one is convex. So if this one is concave, this one will be convex.
Got it.
But we tend to do it this way because if it curves up, you're going to get your gathering is going to sit up like this instead of dropping down, right? So that's why that Western shirt becomes really popular. If that point is there, it's actually dropping all those gathers a little further down. The other thing is, if you don't want these to be gathers or pleats, you can do this with a princess line, and then you have this great fitted shirt. This has already been made into one piece up here, right? I think there's a couple, I wonder if I can find something in archives. I think there's a couple, like the 50s, where some of those kooky house dresses, where they actually have like a little poof up. Cut this lovely lady back out. Just remember, keep these corners all really nice and square. And you don't have to mark these squares on your pattern. These two are going to match up to their notches. This becomes our gathering area in here. And I mark my gathers with a dash line, and I usually with arrows back and forth between the two. How do we know how much we're going to gather it? So whatever that amount is between the notches. So I am at 3 3/8. So this we know to gather down to 3 3/8 because we want to match between those notches, right? It's going to match here. That piece is going to gather into there. Make sure you notch your patterns at this point. Just like when we're marking everything else, you want to make sure you don't want to go off to the side either way for your notcher. You want to be straight on. Line it up, notch it out. Same on this one. Ooh, or you could do this one on the, you could actually cut 2 in this and put this one on the fold. So, and turn this into a little V up here, right? Then you could like pull it on over your head and have a little, or make it a little button on the top. But that's all there is to this yoke. And to do the back, you're going to do the same thing. But what I'd like you to do is make your own yoke pattern for today. And then if you have time, cut one out so you can see what it feels like, because it'll give you a second pattern to play with. This is pretty fitted. This is just enough fullness to get over that bust. So if you want more gathers through here so it feels a little fuller, or you want more decorative, you can slice just this pattern and add fullness to it. And what I would do is do it right in the middle of your pattern. So give yourself a line right through the middle of that. If you wanted it just on this bottom section, and you still want the bottom of your waist to fit really well, decide how much fullness you want and just add it in. That's all there is to it. It's not that hard. If you wanted to do the whole garment to have more ease in it, if it's super fitted across this top and you want more ease through here, all you're going to do is slice all the way through both pieces. Say we want an inch. I'm using my little dots. Add a tape. And you want to make sure this is staying nice and straight. That way you know when you go and add an inch or 2 inches of fullness, whatever you want, I'm going to mark an inch down there. I would keep this closed at the waist and add more fullness up here. So you can slide this open, however open you want it. But if it's the whole garment you want ease through and you don't want that super fitted waist, you can give yourself a line. You just want to make sure you're sliding straight over. The same thing, no matter how much or how little fullness you're giving to a garment, you're going to follow those same lines and true them up. So let's say I just want the bottom section of my bodice to have additional fullness. We can leave this whole piece with this extra fullness, so we'll have a little bit of ease down at the bottom. You could gather it, you can leave it so it hangs a little wider, and you just have to gather, instead of 3 3/8, we're going to gather 4 3/8, right? But if you want to slice through that yoke piece, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to find the middle section and slice through. And I don't want to go through my neckline because that's going to bag out your neckline. What I'd actually want to do is find the middle of my shoulder. Anybody want to know why I'm doing this right now? It's the one thing I want to do before I slice this apart. So for this shoulder seam, to straighten this up, I'm going to go from this outer edge, those 2 points, and give myself a nice new line. For this bottom edge, now if I've added an inch to both of these, we've added ease and it's no longer sitting right on the top. So if it's no longer going to sit right on the top and we've added ease to it, it's going to drop it off. So it's going to feel more like a casual shirt. You're just shoving it off the shoulder a little bit. But if you want it to feel a little more relaxed, that's what that ease is going to do up here. Down here, it's just going to give you a little more flow back here. You can pin it in. Make sense?